As I mentioned earlier, add numbers to your resume bullets. It helps recruiters really picture the impact you have made in your position. And it frankly just sounds more impressive. Many of the job hunters I work with tell me their accomplishments aren't really quantifiable. They just aren't in jobs where they can save the company $4 million a year or so. If you have those numbers at your fingertips, by all means, use them. Let's understand it with an example. Which person would you hire? Say, person 1, who writes, duties included taking field measurements and maintaining records, setting up and tracking projects using Microsoft Project, and developing computerized material takeoff sheets. And at the same time, the second person having the similar experience writes it this way: initiated and managed tracking system used for the Green District water contamination project, saving $125,000 on the overall project through a 30% decrease of staff allocation time. Exactly. Of course, I know what you might be thinking. Sounds great. But what if I just don't really work with hard numbers? Maybe you are in a role that requires softer skills. Or maybe you don't have hard data or sales report to pull from. That's okay. No matter what you do, you can add some numbers and data to your resume to give it that extra touch. Here are 3 ways to quantify your experience without being an inherently quanti field. So let's understand the RFS of self-quantification. R stands for range. If you are not aware of the exact figure for things to be included in resume, you can use a range. It's perfectly fine to not know exactly how many clients you see a month or how many calls you take a week. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't still quantify it. Give it your best estimate, and the range will show that there is a bit of leeway. And of course, focus on your impact. Let's look at this example. In the first scenario, the candidate mentions the candidate is responsible for supervising undergraduate researchers. This sentence makes it unquantifiable, which is not quantifiable, and it doesn't convey the message what employers are really looking for. The second sentence says supervise 7 to 12 undergraduate research students each year who have all since gone on to graduate school in astrophysics, physics, or mathematics. So now you can see for yourself how a sentence being quantified makes a more sense and makes it a lot more attractive. Even if your job role is not quantifiable, but you can still use the range to make it more attractive and give it a quantifying look. Now that you know it's fine to use a range, one of the easiest ways to add some numbers into your resume is to include how frequently you do a particular task. After all, that's a number that applies to pretty much everyone. This is particularly helpful in illustrating your work in high volume situations. A hiring manager will be able to see just how much you can handle. So let's see the example again. In this example, the first sentence is non-quantifiable. As you can read it, has no attractiveness in it. It doesn't convey the exact number, and it doesn't ignite the need to interview the candidate for the employer. Now look at the second sentence, which is very much quantifiable, and because they have used the frequency, like reviewed and evaluated 40 to 50 topical articles per week, so they have given a number and it makes it so specific. Number 3, you have heard it before and you will hear it again. Employers across the board care about money and more about saving it. Including the frequency of your actions gives a great sense of scale. But an even more eye catching way to do is to talk about the bottom line. Think about all the things you do that ultimately save your company some money. Whether it's streamlining a procedure, whether it's saving time or negotiating discounts with vendors, multiply those actions by how frequently you do them and pop them into your resume bullets. Remembering again that rough numbers are okay. You don't have to have an exact number. Look at this example. Here, the one which is quantifiable says how much money a person has saved for his company or for her company for that matter. Imagine an employer looking at this objective and looks at the number and they will immediately get perked up. If this is the amount of saving a candidate can do for a company, for sure the candidate is in. Or if you are more of a people person and less of a number person, consider adding how many people you interacted with or served. Even soft skills come to life with a few numbers thrown in. I'll tell you an example. See, a person is a soft skill person and they work with people. So they can write, chaired promotional committee of 12 and presented marketing plans to an audience of 40 to 60 students at weekly university Senate meeting open to all 2000 community members. So here we talked about the number of students. Here we talked about the community members. But still we were able to add numbers. So that is how you have to practice yourself to add numbers. Numbers make such a huge difference in resumes, no matter what your work involves. So it is mandatory to add numbers to your resume to make it highly attractive. Try adding a few numbers to quantify your work and see how they really drive home the impact you are capable of making.